Hello everyone, I'm Don and welcome to my kitchen. Today we have part 2 of It's All About Pasta. In the first part we did everything the old school way, the well method on the countertop. We used a manual machine. Today we're going to use some equipment here. We're going to use a food processor to process our dough, and we're going to use a roller attachment on our KitchenAid to roll out our dough. I'm going to start out by making the same pasta that we made in part 1, which is your egg pasta. And then I got a little bit of a twist. We're going to make some spinach pasta. So on my stovetop here, I put a couple tablespoons of olive oil in the pan. We've got 4 cups of baby spinach. And it seems like this is an awful lot, but when you see what we end up with when it cooks down, so it's going to all wilt down. I've got this on like a low setting. So we're going to let that go while we move on to making our dough. Now it's the exact same ingredients, which is 300 grams of all-purpose flour. Our eggs is a mix of 3 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs, and then we add water to get it up to 185 grams. So that's the appropriate mixture, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and that's normal table salt. So into our food processor, we are going to add our flour. And we're going to go ahead and add our salt. And I'm going to give it a couple of quick pulses just to mix that in. Now we want to take our eggs and we want to go ahead and scramble them up. It's not critical that they're 100% scrambled, but I tend to just go ahead and give it a really good scramble. Now I'm going to go ahead and add, I'm not going to add 100% of it. Just want to get that cut into the flour. I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of our egg mix. Now we'll pull all that moisture from the egg, and we'll start to form a bit of a dough ball here. You want to check it and see, when you pinch it, you should have kind of the consistency of Play-Doh. It's not going to be one whole ball like if you were using a dough hook in your KitchenAid. It's going to be kind of a choppy mix. And I'm just going to give it a couple other pulses, and that's going to be it. We're going to take some semolina flour and bring it out here on our counter. You want to get the blade out of here and be careful that you don't get cut. And if you watch part 1, you know that this is already so much easier than what we did in part 1. So I'm going to go ahead and form a ball and pick up all my little pieces. It's not sticky. And we're going to hand knead just like we did. And I'm not going to put you through that. So I'm going to go ahead and hand knead this. We're going to wrap it like we did. By then my spinach will be cooked down and hopefully cooled off enough that we'll go ahead and proceed to make the spinach pasta as well. And then we'll go ahead and cut some pasta with both the spinach and the egg pasta. So far I haven't used, this is the first time I've really done it this way. Brand new food processor. Gotta tell you, I love it. I don't know that I'll go back to the well method ever again. This dough is already feeling really good. We'll be back shortly. Okay, I'm back. You can see our spinach has cooked down to just a very small amount at this point, and there's still a lot of moisture in there, and we're going to have to take some of that out before we can make pasta with it. I've changed the ratios as well. We're going to stick with the 300 grams of flour, but I went to 4 eggs, which is 3 yolks and 1 whole egg. Because I did try to make, I have made this before, the old school way, and the addition of spinach adds a lot of moisture to it. So our egg mixture will add up to 120 grams versus 185 grams. And depending on the size eggs you're using, these are just your store-bought large eggs. I had to add a little bit of water to get it to 120. In any event, this is still hot, but what I've got is just a bowl. I've got a strainer and I've got a coffee filter in there. And what I'm going to do is try to get as much of the moisture out of this spinach as I can. And the coffee filter, of course, is acting almost like a cheesecloth. You could use a cheesecloth. Some people would take a cheesecloth and twist it. You can do that. The last time I did it, I used coffee filters. I took just a jar of, you could have sauce, you could have, these are roasted red peppers. But I'm going to squeeze I've taken it out of the coffee filters and I'm still pressing it into the strainer because I gotta tell you, this will add a considerable amount of moisture to your dough. I take our eggs, our 120 gram egg mix, which is our 4 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and put them in my food processor. I'm going to give it a couple of pulses here. All right. And I'm going to add about half of this first. I'm going to create a good mix of the spinach. And we'll go ahead and add the rest of it. And you want to get that obviously pureed very well. You don't want big chunks of spinach in your pasta. I think it would probably create some issues when you're rolling the dough out as well. So I'm going to take this off and I am going to pour this back out. And we're going to add this back to our flour in a way that we're going to keep an eye on this to see how much of this we actually need. So I'm going to go ahead and add my 300 grams of flour into the food processor. And after our 300 grams of flour, we're going to go ahead and add in our 1 teaspoon of salt. And we're going to go ahead and give it a couple pulses. I'm going to go ahead and add in this mixture of egg and spinach. And I'm not going to add it all at once. Just like I did with the eggs alone in part, the first part of this episode. That should be pulling together that same kind of chopped up doughy Yep, it's starting to get there. I'm going to go ahead and continue to chop it. And we're going to try to get as much of this spinach egg mix back in there. The regular egg pasta that we made, those ratios work out, I would say, perfect every time. With the spinach, I think it's going to be a hit or miss, and you're going to have to add in occasionally maybe even a little water to the mix. Now that I've got the rest of the egg in there, we've got a good dough. The ratio actually was pretty good. So the same process as the egg pasta. We're going to go and put a nice coating of semolina flour down. And we want to take our dough. Pop that out there. And you want to start to make a ball out of it, just like you did with the egg pasta. And there's going to be some hand kneading, and we got still some dry ingredients here, but we can work those in. It's, I think, better to be a little dry than to be wet. The first instances of me ever making the spinach pasta, it was pretty soupy. I had a hard time with it all along, which was in the food processor when I did my first experiment with it, and through the roller. However, the pasta came out delicious. By the time I kept adding flour to it and everything to get it to work, it did work, you know. And there's really, I haven't seen much out there as far as an exact science on making spinach pasta, to be honest. I mean, I've looked and I've researched. It's something that I've never made up until now. So you're going to do the same thing. We're going to knead. And I'm not going to make you wait through that. So go ahead and knead this. I'll wrap it up. We've got our egg pasta has been resting with some plastic wrap. When I come back, I'm going to clean up a little bit, and we'll go ahead and roll some out with the KitchenAid roller and go ahead and make. Okay, I'm back. So our egg pasta has been resting. It rested, of course, through the whole time we were working on the spinach pasta. And the spinach pasta is probably about 15-20 minutes in, so it's near being ready to be worked with. But we're going to go ahead and roll this dough out using the KitchenAid attachment. And to be honest, this is not a true KitchenAid attachment. There are a lot of attachments out there made for KitchenAid appliances that are not made by KitchenAid, and this is one of them. I found it on Amazon, and the price was right, and I've given it a couple test runs, and it works pretty good. So in the last part, in part one, you saw me roll it out manually over here, which is not a whole lot of effort. I still have to use this to cut pasta. There are complete kits that allow you to, they come with a roller and come with also the cutter, pasta cutting attachments. I did not buy that. It could be, I figured I could still do it this way. It's not that difficult, and maybe I'm just a little cheap too. So this is our egg pasta, and what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and section that into quarters, and that's the way to go about this. And you want to wrap up your pieces that you're not using so they don't dry out. And we're not going to go through all this. We're going to go ahead and do one piece. So you want to go ahead and flatten it out, just like we did in part one, to put it through this machine, and try to get it into somewhat of a rectangular shape if you can. And also have your surface floured with some semolina or all-purpose flour. And especially if it's sticky, you want to make sure that you do that. And this is a little tacky. So on this machine, it's got the same type of dial on it that allows us to reduce it to get the thinner, next step, thinner. It's actually the reverse of what this is. On this machine, 1 is the widest setting, and it goes up to 7. On this machine, 7 is the widest setting, it goes down to 1. I don't know, that's just the way it is. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the machine on. We're gonna start with it on low, and then we can crank it up a little bit to see how that works out. Now, just like the last episode, we're going to fold this in kind of like an envelope, and we want to put it through a few times through the machine on the setting number 1 before we go ahead and move up. And we're trying to get it to be somewhat rectangular, and you want to be able to regularly flour this as you're going along. I'm going to fold the tabs in here. So far, I'm a real fan of the automated method, although there's something about the tradition, you know, of maybe you're cooking with your kids and your mom and having it all out on the counter. But if you're in a pinch and you want to get things done, the food processor method and the KitchenAid roller attachment is, I would say, the way to go. And this will be the last pass. And I only run it through one time on the last pass. So you can see it does a really nice job. I'm going to go ahead and cut these in half. And you can just kind of set these aside, these sheets, or you can actually, you know, just like we discussed in part 1, you could freeze the sheets. When I freeze the sheets like this for future pasta making, I put it between parchment paper and kind of fold it over, fold them up into smaller packs and put them in quart size freezer bags, and then go ahead and freeze them up to 3 months. Take them out. Make sure they're thawed out, obviously. Make sure you're probably going to need some flour again, but then you can go ahead and proceed to cut. So let's go ahead and do some of our spinach pasta. All right, so we took that down to the number 6 setting. And what I'm going to go ahead and do, we're going to go ahead and do a quick demonstration on cutting and taking a look at our finished Okay, it did a nice job. Got a few stragglers here. If you remember in the last part 1 of this series, I kept calling everything linguine, and I gotta tell you, it's because I had linguine on my mind. I had plans for dinner that night for linguine and clam sauce, so no matter what, this machine does not cut linguine, it cuts fettuccine. And as you saw me making some corrections, that's what it was. So once again, you could take this, you could hang dry it. If you dust it, you go ahead and make the little bird's nest that we did before, and you roll that up and you put it on your sheet with some flour. You can let it dry like that. You can go ahead and put it in the freezer, let it freeze up, then take it and put it in some freezer bags and store it that way up to 3 months. It's going to be delicious. Anyhow, thanks for spending this time with me. That's the end of part 2 of It's All About Pasta. Please like or subscribe if you'd like to see more videos like this. And I'll leave in the description all the accessories, the kitchen accessories that I have used in this video. So we'll see you next time.